When I found the key, I didn't think much of it. It was small, silver, and ordinary, tucked inside the lining of my husband's jacket pocket. The same jacket I'd washed and hung for him 100 times before. But that day, something in me hesitated. My fingers brushed the metal, and instead of setting it aside, like I usually did, I held it. It wasn't one of ours. I remember the faint click as I turned it between my fingers. The shape was unfamiliar, slightly curved, the grooves deeper than the ones for our house or car. It was a stranger's key, hidden in a place that wasn't meant to be found. And even though I didn't know it yet, that tiny piece of metal was the beginning of the end. Before that day, I would have told you my life was steady. Not perfect, but comfortable. My husband Daniel and I had been married for 12 years. We had 2 children, Liam, 9, and Emma, 6. Our mornings were a blur of cereal bowls and missing socks. Our nights spent folding laundry and half watching TV before falling asleep on opposite sides of the bed. We weren't newlyweds anymore, but we were fine. At least that's what I told myself. Daniel worked as a regional manager for a construction firm. His schedule was busy, unpredictable, late meetings, site visits, emergency calls. I used to joke that the only constant thing about his job was how often he said, "Don't wait up." I was a part-time teacher at a local school. My days were filled with chalk dust and the smell of glue sticks. I loved my work, even though it didn't pay much. It kept me grounded, gave me something that was mine. At home, Daniel was affectionate in small, rehearsed ways. A kiss on the cheek before work, a quick text in the afternoon, need anything from the store? He never forgot my birthday or our anniversary, but sometimes I caught myself wondering if he remembered me. The woman who laughed until her stomach hurt. The one who wore red lipstick on random Tuesdays just because she liked how it made her feel. I'd lost that version of myself somewhere between diaper changes and PTA meetings. Daniel said he understood. He said that he was just tired from work, that men his age didn't talk about feelings. And I believed him, because it was easier than admitting the truth. Something between us had gone quiet. It started small, like all storms do. Daniel began guarding his phone more closely. He used to leave it on the counter while showering or napping. Now it was always face down. Once, when it buzzed during dinner, he actually flinched, before grabbing it. "Work," he said, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I wanted to believe him, I really did. But that smile, it had hesitation in it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, listening to the sound of his breathing beside me, steady, familiar, unbothered. I stared at the ceiling fan turning above us and thought about the distance between our bodies, only a few inches apart, yet feeling like miles. I told myself I was being paranoid. Marriage wasn't a fairy tale after all. People got busy, people got tired. But paranoia has a way of whispering when the world is quiet. A week later, I found the key. Daniel had left his jacket draped over the back of the dining chair, still smelling faintly of his cologne, clean and sharp, with a hint of cedar. I was cleaning up after breakfast when the jacket slipped and something metal clinked against the floor. It rolled to my foot. I picked it up, confused. It didn't match our house keys, not even the spare for the garage. The head of it had a tiny sticker with faded handwriting, numbers, maybe an address. I slipped it into my apron pocket before I even realized what I was doing. All morning, I couldn't stop thinking about it, that key. The way Daniel's eyes had darted away the night his phone buzzed, the late meetings, the sudden trips to visit clients. I told myself I wouldn't pry. I wasn't that kind of wife. but the thought clung to me like the smell of burnt toast. That night when Daniel came home, I tested him. "How was work?" I asked, keeping my tone light. He kissed my forehead. "Long, same as always." I studied his face, the slight sheen of sweat, the faint mark of a seatbelt across his shirt, and something else, something I hadn't noticed before. He smelled faintly of a perfume that wasn't mine. Not floral, not strong, but soft, sweet, almost citrusy, like orange blossoms. I froze. "Why are you looking at me like that?" he asked, laughing nervously. "Just tired," I said, smiling back. Inside, my chest was tight. For the next few days, I watched him differently. When he said he was going to the gym, I noted the time. When he said a meeting ran late, I asked which site. Each answer felt practiced, too smooth. Then came the night he forgot to take his jacket, the same one I'd washed before, the one with the key. I stood in the kitchen holding that piece of silver like it was alive. My reflection shimmered faintly against its surface. Where did it belong? And why did Daniel hide it? My heart said I already knew, but denial is a kind of comfort too. So I told myself one last lie. Maybe it's for work. But the next day, when I followed him, quietly, carefully, I learned how fast truth can hurt. It was Saturday morning. He'd said he was heading to an early meeting. I watched him leave, waited 5 minutes, then grabbed my car keys and trailed behind. My palms were slick on the steering wheel. My chest felt heavy. Every red light felt like a test of courage. He drove across town, far from his usual route. He parked outside a small apartment complex. I pulled over half a block away, watching as he got out of the car, looked around, and walked to the door of Building C. He reached into his pocket and pulled out something. A small silver key. I stayed there, gripping the steering wheel, heart pounding. Then, slowly, I drove closer. From the outside, the building looked ordinary. White siding, small balconies, potted plants by the stairwell. But when I parked, I saw movement through a window. Daniel. And a woman. She had her back turned at first, her hair in a messy bun, wearing one of his old t-shirts, the one I'd folded and placed in his drawer just 2 days ago. He hugged her from behind, kissed her neck, and I, his wife of 12 years, sat there watching through glass, holding the key that led to the truth I never wanted to find. I don't remember driving home. I don't remember the turns, the traffic lights, or the radio that hummed softly in the background. I just remember the way my hands trembled on the steering wheel and how my vision blurred every few seconds, not from tears, but from disbelief. There is a strange stillness that comes after betrayal. It's not the loud, screaming kind of heartbreak people talk about in movies. It's quiet, heavy, like you've stepped into a soundproof room and the world outside has moved on without you. I parked the car in our driveway, turned the engine off, and sat there for a long time. The house looked the same. The curtains drawn halfway, Emma's pink bicycle leaning against the porch, the small crack on the window pane Daniel had promised to fix. Everything was in its place, except me. When I finally went inside, I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I just stood in the kitchen, staring at the empty chair where he usually sat. His coffee mug was still in the sink from that morning, a small ring of brown residue clinging to the bottom, the evidence of a normal life. And now I knew it was a lie. That evening, Daniel came home like nothing had happened. He kissed Emma on the head, ruffled Liam's hair, and asked me about dinner. His voice was calm, cheerful even. I watched him, every gesture, every word. Long day? I asked. He nodded, loosening his tie. You have no idea. That new client's giving us hell. I almost laughed at the ease of his lie. I looked at him. This man I'd shared a bed with, raised children with, believed in, and for the first time, I realized how little I truly knew him. He glanced at me. You okay? Fine, I said. My voice didn't shake. He smiled and walked upstairs to shower. As I listened to the water running, I slipped into our bedroom and opened his dresser. My heart thudded with the slow, dull rhythm. Inside, everything was neatly arranged. Cufflinks, watch, folded shirts. But there, in the corner of the drawer, was another spare key. The same silver one. He'd hidden it again. I closed the drawer quietly and sat on the bed. The faint sound of the shower filled the silence. I didn't feel anger. Not yet. Just a deep, aching emptiness. For days, I carried the truth like a stone in my chest. Heavy, cold, unyielding. Every time Daniel kissed me goodbye, I thought of that other woman. How he must have kissed her too, whispered the same lies, maybe even used the same words. I stopped eating properly. I went through the motions for the kids. Breakfast, school runs, bedtime stories. But inside, I was unraveling. Part of me wanted to confront him right away, to scream, throw things, demand answers. But another part, the quieter, steadier part, knew that if I lost control, I'd lose more than just him. I'd lose my dignity, my peace, my power. So I waited. The first thing I did was find out who she was. It wasn't hard. The apartment complex had mailboxes outside, labeled neatly by tenant name. On my next visit, yes, I went back. I parked a little farther away, wore sunglasses, and walked casually past the row of boxes. Apartment C4, S. Morgan. Samantha. I remembered hearing that name once before. Daniel had mentioned a new client assistant from one of their project sites. My stomach twisted. Back home, I searched her name online. There she was, mid-30s, bright smile, a few professional headshots. Her LinkedIn profile said project support specialist at Westline Construction, Daniel's firm. I stared at her picture for a long time, studying her face. She was pretty, yes, but not in a way that made me feel small. She looked ordinary. Human. It made the betrayal hurt even more. Because it wasn't about beauty or youth, it was about choice. And he had chosen her. That night, I couldn't sleep again. Daniel was beside me, phone face down on the nightstand. The glow of the screen flickered once before he turned it off completely. Who were you texting? I asked softly, turning to face him. He blinked, surprised. Just Jeff, the site manager. Oh. He smiled faintly, pulled me closer. You okay? You've been quiet lately. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell him I knew everything, but I didn't. I let him hold me. I let his arms wrap around me while my heart broke quietly under his touch. That's when I made my decision. If he wanted to live two lives, then I would end one of them, and it wouldn't be mine. I spent the next few days planning, not revenge exactly, but clarity. I needed proof, something undeniable, something that would make him confront his truth without giving him room to twist it into lies. On Wednesday, I took the day off work. I told Daniel I was attending a workshop. Instead, I went to the locksmith near our school and asked if he could identify the key. He looked at it briefly. "Oh, that's from the Pinewood apartments downtown. Standard cut." My chest tightened. "Can you make a copy?" He nodded. "Sure." I left the shop with two identical keys in my hand. One truth, one tool. That evening, Daniel called to say he'd be working late again. Of course he would. I waited an hour, then drove to Pinewood. When I reached the door to C4, my hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the key. For a moment, I just stood there. The hallway smelled faintly of paint and detergent. A small doormat lay in front of the door. "Welcome home," written in cheerful blue letters. I turned the key. It fit perfectly. The click of the lock echoed louder than thunder. Inside, the apartment was neat but lived in. A woman's touch everywhere. Soft lighting, throw pillows, framed photos on the mantel. And then I saw it. A picture of Daniel and Samantha standing together at what looked like a company event. He was smiling, the kind of smile I hadn't seen in years. The same smile he used to wear when he looked at me. I sank onto the couch, the air thick around me. Every lie, every late night, every meeting, it all snapped into focus. And for the first time, I realized I wasn't just betrayed. I was replaced. The sound of a car door outside pulled me from my thoughts. I looked out the window and saw Daniel walking up the steps, holding a bag of groceries, his phone pressed to his ear. He was coming home. Just not to me. My breath caught. My hands shook. I could stay, confront him, watch his face crumble as the truth cornered him. Or I could leave, quietly, with my dignity intact, and make him wonder how long I'd known. When he reached for the doorknob, I was already gone. That night, when he came home to our house, I was sitting at the kitchen table, calm, collected. He smiled. "Hey, babe, you're up late." I looked him straight in the eye. "You left your key at work, didn't you?" He froze. It was the smallest flicker of panic, barely a second, but I saw it. I, yeah, why? I tilted my head slightly, studying him like a stranger. The next morning, the sun rose like nothing had happened. Birds still chirped, Emma still asked for pancakes, Liam still complained about math homework, and Daniel still sat at the table pretending everything was normal. He didn't mention my words from last night, didn't ask what I meant, didn't confess. He just poured himself coffee, his hands shaking slightly as he avoided my eyes. I watched him quietly. The silence between us was heavy, not loud enough to break, but sharp enough to cut. When he finally left for work, I sat there alone for a long time. That was the thing about betrayal. It didn't end with the truth. It echoed. Every sound, every memory, every small, stupid thing we'd shared now felt poisoned. 2 days later, he tried to act normal again. He came home early, brought flowers, kissed my cheek, thought we could have dinner together, just us. I looked at the flowers. White lilies, my favorite. He still remembered. But all I could think about was how many times he'd probably stopped at another doorstep holding something just like this. I set them down on the counter. "That's sweet, Daniel." He smiled nervously. "You've been distant lately. Is something wrong?" I laughed softly. "You tell me." He froze again, the same flicker of panic I'd seen before. He tried to mask it, clearing his throat. "What's that supposed to mean?" I met his gaze. "It means you're not as good at hiding things as you think." He stared at me, eyes narrowing slightly. "If this is about work—" "Don't," I interrupted, my voice calm but sharp. "Don't insult me with another lie." For a moment, he didn't speak. Then he sighed, shoulders slumping. "I didn't mean for it to happen." There it was, the confession I both needed and dreaded. "Her name's Samantha," I said quietly. His eyes widened. "I know everything." The room fell silent. The air between us thickened with shame, guilt, and something else. Relief, maybe. His mask was finally off. He sank into the nearest chair, rubbing his face with his hands. It wasn't supposed to be serious. I almost laughed at the absurdity. "You had a key to her apartment, Daniel. How serious does it have to be?" He looked up, eyes wet. "It was complicated. You've been distant, the kids, work." "Stop." I held up a hand. "Don't you dare blame this on me." He fell silent again. "You could have talked to me," I said softly. "You could have been honest. Instead, you lied. Every day. Every night." "I'm sorry." His voice broke. "I swear I didn't want to hurt you." "But you did." He nodded, staring at the floor. "I'll end it. I already did." "Did you?" I asked. "Or are you just saying that because you got caught?" He didn't answer. That was all I needed to know. Over the next few days, he tried. Flowers, apologies, long talks, promises. But every word sounded hollow. I'd spent too many nights imagining his laughter in someone else's arms. You can't unhear that kind of thing. And you can't rebuild trust on top of ashes. So one evening, while he was still at work, I packed a small suitcase. Not everything, just what mattered. My journals, the kids' birth certificates, and a few photos that still made me smile. When I zipped it shut, I didn't feel dramatic or brave. I just felt done. I left a note on the counter. "You broke something that can't be fixed. I'm taking the kids to my mother's house for a while. Don't call me. Don't come after me. Fix yourself first, if you even know how." That night, I drove to my mother's house. She didn't ask many questions, just held me the way she did when I was a little girl who scraped her knee. Sometimes silence is the kindest form of love. Over the next few weeks, I tried to rebuild some kind of normal. The kids were confused at first. Emma kept asking, "When's Daddy coming?" And every time I smiled and said softly, "Soon, sweetheart, just not today." It broke me a little each time, but I'd rather break honestly than live whole in a lie. Then one afternoon, as I was folding laundry, I got a text from Daniel. "Please, just talk to me once. I'll come to Mom's house if I have to." I stared at the message for a long time. He still didn't get it. It wasn't about the affair anymore. It was about the choice he made to lie every day, to build his happiness on the wreckage of mine. So I replied with just one line. "You already said everything when you chose her." I blocked his number after that. A month passed, then another, and slowly I started to heal. It wasn't easy. Healing never is. It came in waves, small, unpredictable, sometimes painful. The first time I laughed again, it startled me. The sound felt foreign in my own mouth. The first time I slept through the night, I woke up disoriented, surprised at the peace. And the first time I looked at myself in the mirror and didn't see a broken woman, I saw a survivor. One evening, after putting the kids to bed, I took out my journal. On the first page, I wrote, "Pain reveals the truth we try hardest to hide, but truth, once seen, can never be unseen." Then I wrote down everything, every detail, every feeling, every small, stupid thing we'd shared. Writing it out didn't erase the past, but it gave it shape. And once something has shape, it can't haunt you in the same way. A few months later, Daniel showed up at my mother's doorstep. He looked thinner, older. Regret clung to him like smoke. "Can we talk?" he asked quietly. I didn't say yes, but I didn't close the door either. He stood there, eyes full of sorrow. I lost everything that mattered. I met his gaze. "No, Daniel, you gave it away." He swallowed hard. "Do you think someday we could try again?" I shook my head gently. "Maybe someday you'll learn to love honestly, but it won't be with me." He nodded slowly, tears in his eyes. "I understand." And for the first time, I believed him. He turned to leave. The car door shut softly, and the sound faded into the night. That was the last time I saw him. Life moved on, slower, steadier, kinder. The pain didn't vanish, but it became part of me, not a wound, but a scar, a reminder of what I survived. Sometimes, late at night, when I see the moonlight spill across the floor, I still think about that silver key, how something so small unlocked a truth so big. But I don't hate it anymore. That key didn't destroy my life. It opened the door to who I was always meant to be. Some doors aren't meant to be opened, but sometimes it's the only way to finally walk free. If you believe stories can heal hearts and open minds, click subscribe and join our growing family. One story at a time, we'll walk through life's hidden emotions together.